For 9 years, Texas wasn't a state. It was an independent country, with its own president, its own army, its own money, and embassies in Paris and London. It's the only U.S. state that was once a recognized nation. It has flown 6 different flags. Its name comes from a native word meaning friends, and yet its history is one of the bloodiest in America.
Revolution, cowboys, a hurricane that killed thousands, and a single morning in 1901 when a fountain of black liquid erupted from the ground and changed the entire world. This is how Texas was built.
Long before cowboys and oil wells, Texas was home to dozens of native nations. In the east lived the Caddo, sophisticated farmers who built mound cities and traded across half the continent. When Spanish explorers arrived, the Caddo greeted them with a word meaning friends or allies, a word the Spanish wrote down as Tejas. That word became the name of everything that followed. The Spanish claimed this land in the 1500s, but for 2 centuries they barely touched it. It was vast, dry, and dangerous, especially after the Comanche arrived. Masters of the horse, the Comanche built one of the most powerful empires in North America, and for over 100 years they, not Spain, were the true rulers of the Texas plains. Spain's main legacy was a chain of missions built to convert the native peoples. Most failed, but one of them, founded in 1718 in San Antonio, would later become the most famous building in Texas. Its name was the Alamo.
In 1821, Mexico won its independence from Spain and inherited Texas, enormous, empty, and impossible to defend. So the Mexican government tried something desperate. It invited American settlers in, offering cheap land in exchange for loyalty.
A young man named Stephen F. Austin brought the first 300 families. Others flooded after them, so many that within a decade, American settlers vastly outnumbered Mexicans in Texas. Mexico grew alarmed. It banned further immigration, tightened taxes, and cracked down. And the settlers, who had never really stopped thinking of themselves as Americans, began to talk of rebellion. The spark came in October 1835 in the small town of Gonzales. The Mexican army came to take back a small cannon it had lent the settlers. The Texans raised a homemade flag over the gun with 4 words on it: "Come and take it." The Texas Revolution had begun.
In early 1836, the Mexican president, General Santa Anna, marched north with thousands of soldiers to crush the rebellion personally. In his path stood that old mission in San Antonio, the Alamo, defended by fewer than 200 men.
Among them were names that would become legend. Jim Bowie, the knife fighter, too sick to stand. William Travis, the 26-year-old commander who wrote a letter promising victory or death. And Davy Crockett, the famous frontiersman and former congressman from Tennessee. For 13 days, Santa Anna's army surrounded them. The defenders knew help wasn't coming. They stayed anyway. Before dawn on March 6, 1836, the Mexican army stormed the walls. The battle lasted about 90 minutes. Nearly every defender was killed. As a military event, the Alamo was a small battle. As a story, it became one of the most powerful in American history. Because 6 weeks later, at San Jacinto, General Sam Houston's ragtag Texan army caught Santa Anna's forces by surprise during their afternoon rest. The Texans attacked screaming 2 words: "Remember the Alamo." The battle lasted 18 minutes. Santa Anna was captured and signed away Texas. Against all odds, the rebels had won, and now they had a country.
From 1836 to 1845, Texas was an independent nation, the Republic of Texas. It had a president, Sam Houston, the hero of San Jacinto. It had a Congress, a navy, its own currency, and diplomats in Europe. Its flag carried a single star. the lone star that still defines Texas today.
But independence was hard. The republic was broke, constantly at war with the Comanche, and under permanent threat of Mexican invasion. Most Texans had always wanted to join the United States anyway, and in 1845, they got their wish. Texas became the 28th state, the only one to enter the Union as a former recognized country. The annexation triggered war between the U.S. and Mexico, a war that ended with Mexico losing half its territory. The modern map of the American Southwest was drawn in that peace treaty, but Texas carried a darker inheritance too: slavery. Cotton and enslaved labor drove the Texas economy, and in 1861, Texas joined the Confederacy in the Civil War. And here's a piece of history that echoes to this day. Because Texas was so remote, enslaved people there were among the last to learn of their freedom. On June 19, 1865, when Union troops finally arrived in Galveston. That date, Juneteenth, is now a national American holiday. It was born in Texas.
After the Civil War, Texas was poor in money but rich in one thing: cattle. Millions of longhorns roamed wild across the plains, nearly worthless in Texas, but worth 10 times more in the cities of the North.
The math was simple. The solution was legendary: the cattle drive. Texas Cowboys, and it's worth knowing that roughly 1 in 3 of them were black or Mexican vaqueros, the original cowboys who invented the whole craft, drove enormous herds hundreds of miles north to the railroads in Kansas. Over 2 decades, millions of cattle made the journey. The American cowboy, the most famous character in world pop culture, was born on those Texas trails. By 1900, the state's biggest city was Galveston, a booming island port called the Wall Street of the South. And then, on September 8, 1900, a massive hurricane rose out of the Gulf with almost no warning. The storm drowned the island under waves and wind. At least 6,000 people died. Some estimates say more than 10,000. To this day, it remains the deadliest natural disaster in American history. Galveston never recovered its position. Texas needed a new future. It was about to erupt out of the ground.
On the morning of January 10, 1901, a drilling crew was working on a salt dome hill called Spindletop near Beaumont. Just after 10 o'clock, the well began to rumble, and then the earth exploded.
Mud, gas, and drilling pipe blasted out of the hole, followed by a solid column of black oil roaring nearly 50 meters into the sky. The gusher flowed uncontrolled for 9 days. That single well produced more oil than every other oil well in America, combined. The world changed that morning. Oil had been a lamp fuel. Suddenly, it was abundant enough to power engines, ships, and eventually cars and planes. Companies that would become Texaco, Gulf, and part of ExxonMobil were born in the Spindletop boom. Beaumont's population tripled in months. Land prices near the hill multiplied thousands of times over. For the next century, oil was Texas. It built the skylines of Houston and Dallas, funded universities, created legendary fortunes and legendary busts. When OPEC crises shook the world in the 1970s, Texas boomed. When prices collapsed in the 1980s, Texas banks failed by the hundreds. The state learned a hard lesson. An empire built on one resource is an empire at risk. So Texas did what it has always done. It reinvented itself.
In 1961, NASA chose Houston as the home of its manned spacecraft center, today's Johnson Space Center. When Apollo 11 landed on the moon, the first word spoken from its surface was the name of a Texas city. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Meanwhile, in Dallas in 1958, an engineer at Texas Instruments named Jack Kilby invented something small enough to hold on a fingertip: the integrated circuit. the microchip. It's not an exaggeration to say the entire modern world runs on that Texas invention, and the reinvention never stopped. Austin, once a sleepy university town, grew into one of America's biggest tech hubs, home to Dell, giant campuses for Apple and Google, and Tesla's headquarters. Houston became the energy capital of the world and one of the most ethnically diverse cities in America. Dallas-Fort Worth grew into a corporate giant. Today, Texas has around 30 million people, an economy larger than most countries. By some measures, one of the 10 largest economies on Earth, and it gains hundreds of new residents every single day. 6 flags, a revolution, a dead republic, a drowned city, an ocean of oil. From "come and take it" to Houston, the Eagle has landed. Few places on Earth have packed so much history into 200 years. Texas has been a Comanche empire, a Spanish colony, a Mexican province, an independent republic, a Confederate state, a cattle kingdom, an oil empire, and a tech powerhouse. 8 different lives, and it never stopped believing it was destined for a 9th. Maybe that's the real Texas story, not the oil or the cowboys, but the stubborn, almost reckless confidence that the next boom is always coming. So here's my question for you. Is Texas the future of America, or is it something else entirely? A country hiding inside a country? Let me know in the comments.
And if you enjoyed this one, check out my video on how Chicago was built, another place that turned catastrophe into a comeback. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.